I'm good. How are you?
Doing all right. Doing all right. Well, thank you for doing this today. How
Yeah,
you doing?
I'm very well. I have a very nice lazy day. It's raining here in Montreal, so I'm happy to be just inside chatting with you. Where are you at the moment?
Currently sitting in Birmingham, but I'm getting ready to head out tomorrow. We're gonna go open for ZZ Top in Minneapolis, like around Minnesota.
Right?
Um, yeah, so that's really exciting. I can't wait to do that. And yeah, we're getting ready to hit the road. Honestly, just getting ready to start doing shows. And I got an album coming out in just a couple days, and that's really scary and exciting. And
How do you normally feel in those couple of days just before the album drops?
I always feel like kind of just I'm excited, but I'm also sort of freaked out just because it's this thing you've been working on for a really long time. And now it's coming to a point where everybody gets to hear it. I mean, I've been working on this for, gosh, over a year, so it's like there's just a lot of like question marks, how people gonna react. Is it I know I love it, but it's kind of up to the world now, and so it's just I think it's just the suspense is killing me. I want it to get out, be moved on
Yeah.
and over with it.
So the album is called Faster, and I know that you've
Yeah.
been working on this during the last year or so when everything in the world has kind of felt slower.
Yep.
So talk to me about the title. When did you originally have the idea for the title, and what did the word faster mean to you at that point?
Well, the song it was one of the first songs I co-wrote with my producer Martin Kierszenbaum, and the song is just really like an invitation to a lover. You're kind of like tired of like beating around the bush, so to speak, and it's kind of an invitation to be bold, is really what it boils down to. Just this invitation just to be totally yourself and bold. And I feel like, I don't know, it just kind of like is the anthem of the album in a way. That's sort of the theme. Unapologetic and just out there and bold. And I think it sets people up for what they're kind of in for the album itself. And so to me it's just about, it just exudes confidence. So it should be right up front and center, which is sort of what this whole album's about.
Yeah, so you've talked about how this album is like the theme of the album is about taking control, and it's a very positive album, which many people might not have expected after the kind of year and a half that we've had. So did having some downtime, like not being on tour, did that make you think about your life in general and how you wanted to move forward? And is the taking control part of that?
Yeah, I mean, I think when this whole thing started, when the pandemic really kicked off last March, I went through, like everybody, some serious ups and downs. You kind of go through these like phases of like, I don't know, I don't even feel like I was completely accepting of our our circumstances all the way until about, the early summer, when I realized, oh damn, all these dates, all these shows, our entire life is going to change as we know it. It's not just a month. It's not just a couple weeks. This is like a significant change. So, my headspace and my mood was kind of fluctuating a lot. I remember feeling some days just really frustrated and angry. And, I thought the album was going to take that tone. When I started writing, I really thought a lot of what was coming out was really just frustration and stress and anger and sadness.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it was sometime around midsummer I met Martin, and we started this journey working together. And I kind of credit him a lot too, this kind of shift in my mood, because he's such a positive, upbeat person and like really enthusiastic and excited about music and life. And you can't help but be sort of infected by that positivity. But I guess, when I started working on these songs, it was like, it was nice to have somebody who really believes in you, because it makes you really, it just reminds you to believe in yourself. And that was kind of his place in this for me. And so when I started writing, it was like, I guess I was writing from the perspective of how I wanted to feel and where I wanted to be, personally. And so, we get this positive sort of upbeat, exciting empowering, energetic thing. And it's like, yeah, that's exactly the record I wanted to make from this. I didn't want to do a dirge, I wanted it to feel good. I wanted to make people feel good with it.
Yeah, and I think that's the kind of record that people need right now. Like, there are positive signs that things are starting to change, and I know you've been playing shows again, but we've had enough of the downtime. Now we just want to get out. And I was going to ask you, these recent shows that you've been playing, have you felt a different kind of energy from the crowd compared to what it used to be like?
I definitely have. People are really receptive right now. And I the energy it shows, it's like we've all been kind of starved of this interaction and this connection. And, live music, I feel like, is such a cathartic release. At least it is for me. When I would go to shows, that's kind of what it would do for me. It just sort of like take my troubles away. So, I don't know. I mean, I'm feeling like a real palpable energy from the crowd. Like, we just played in Colorado the other night, and there were kids like moshing and stuff and crowd surfing. And it was like, I'm like, what is going on? This is, it was super fun, but like, just the energy is different. I feel like people are just like ramped up, ready to go. There's been an outpouring of love and support. It's still not back to normal. Obviously, we're kind of going back into this cycle of like, okay, we're going to have to distance more and, make these rules or protocols and just get a little more strict with how we do it. It appears that way. But I still feel like people want to do this and they want to see it. So we're all just trying to kind of make it work together. And God, I've been so appreciative of like the fans, because they've really, we're all having to make adjustments to make it work. And by and large, for the most part, I think people are willing to do that. And, just so we can keep doing this, because it's, for me, it's all there is. Like, and I love that I get to share this with people again.
So what makes the perfect show for you? When you come off stage and you're just like, that could not have gone any better, what is it about the show that would make it like that?
Well, I like it when the audience is engaged. I mean, that really helps a lot. When you have an audience that's like fully engaged, and like we're really, because we give 110% when we go up on stage. I mean, I'm exhausted. If it's a good show, I'm exhausted. And after we finish it, and so when the audience is like giving that back, that's like a really kind of a special moment,
Yeah.
I mean, I love, like, it's awesome to play to an audience that like sings along and knows the songs. I mean, it feels really like, you're like, oh my God, that's so cool. I never as a kid would have imagined being able to do that. But, for me, if I don't break a string, if I don't break a shoe, if the amp continues to work, if nothing breaks, it feels like a win, because there's always like that kind of the known unknown when shit just goes wrong. So, I'm always happy when stuff doesn't go wrong. And, when the band locks in together and we're like doing cool stuff, that's special too.
And I know that like in normal times you write on tour a lot of the time, right?
I usually would. Yeah. Usually I'd be writing, my albums between shows and hotel rooms. So to have all this time off to be able to really focus and write, at home, it was a little different, there are pros and cons to it. I'm not going to say it was 100% like a better thing for me. I think you need to move around to find inspiration sometimes. And trust me, it was difficult to channel that every day in the same four walls. I had some very frustrating moments and days by myself. But, I don't know. I mean, it was nice to get to slow down and just really focus on one thing, and not be completely stressed and overwhelmed that I had this deadline. I have to go into I had a deadline, but when you take away all the touring and all the extra stuff that we do, and it's like, okay, you have a deadline here, you need to complete, I needed to complete my stuff. I could really just focus on being creative. And I don't know, that was kind of important, special, I think, especially for, what I was trying to do.
Yeah, for sure. And you've started collaborating with some interesting people. Josh from one of my favorite bands, Nine Inch Nails, and before that, Guns N' Roses.
Yeah.
How has he made a difference to the way the record sounds?
Josh Freese sounds like $1 million. He really does. Like, he just sounds so good. I mean, we were in there working on these songs. And I mean, he comes in completely professional and prepared, but like just the way he hits and the way he plays the drum kit, it's just got so much excitement and energy, and, just brings a whole other level of, experience and professionalism. And, I'm a big fan of Nine Inch Nails too, like one of my favorite bands. And it was so hard for me not to geek out and like ask him all kinds of silly questions, like, is Trent Reznor nice? And, but I don't know. I mean, he's just like a rock and roll badass, really. I mean, he nails it. He just nails it. Simple as that.
Yeah. So obviously you're known for rock and roll, but then we have Tech Nine that's come on on this track, Loud. Is that a Kansas connection, or how did that come about? That's a really interesting mix.
I know. I was so when I was working on these songs, Martin and I met in person in Kansas City, kind of like in the fall. And we used one of the writing rooms at Strange Music to collaborate together. They were nice enough to let us just use this room. And Strange Music is Tech Nine's label, production company, like his whole company. They do so much stuff, but it's like really this giant complex out in Kansas City. And he's a big icon, not just in Kansas City, but around the world. But like he's especially special in Kansas City. And I remember being a kid, driving around and seeing his billboards and like just being a big fan. And he's just been at it and killing it for years. And I always thought like, oh, it'd be so cool if I could do a verse on Tech Nine's song, guest on one of his. And so that him guesting on mine is kind of like mind blowing for me as a Kansas City native and someone who kind of came up listening to him. Yeah, I mean, Martin is the one who hooked that up. He said, wouldn't it be cool if Tech Nine did a feature on this album? And I just kind of laughed. I'm like, yeah, sure. Right. Like he'll do that, and then he did. I was kind of shocked. I was like, oh my God, he did it. And it's so cool, because it's really, I don't know, I think it's a unique collaboration. It's unexpected. Yeah. And I feel like, that's kind of what makes it cool, is that it's unexpected. And I think it works well together. And there's a juxtaposition of like, these musical styles coming together, but it works, which is interesting. I think it's cool.
And what was his initial reaction to the idea of collaborating? Did you have to sell it to him, or was he?
No, I think he was in. Knowing Martin is like, it was super helpful in that too, because Martin knows Travis and Tech Nine, and so like he really brought us all together. I mean, I think he was into it, which I don't know. I think it's hard for me to, just because when you look up to people, it's hard to like imagine that they'd want to do something with you sometimes. But I think that the track is great, and I think that the album is great, and he saw the value in what we were doing, and I'm kind of blown away still. Like, it's pretty cool for me.
Yeah, amazing. So I want to take you all the way back to when you were a kid. Listening to your music, you would assume that maybe you grew up listening to blues and classic rock and all that kind of stuff. Would that be true?
Absolutely. I listen to everything. I mean, I listened to when I started playing guitar, it was kind of just like, okay, what's on the radio, so I really was into classic rock, because that's where you'd hear the most guitar solos, really, yeah. That and maybe some alternative stations. But all the really cool guitar solos at that time for me, when I'm like flipping through radio stations, it was like classic rock. I was big into like the Stones and Tom Petty and, Boston and AC/DC and just all these like epic guitar part players and, these iconic solos and stuff. But all of my dad's friends would, they were kind of like bluegrass, West Coast swing type pickers, guitar, like storytellers. Yeah. And so I kind of got, both of these worlds where I was hearing these guys play these songs every other weekend. They'd come and have like, get-togethers and play guitars together. And I'd hear all this storytelling and all these songs and kind of more this underground sound. And I don't know. I mean, I think all that stuff sort of shaped me into who I am now. But as I was like, learning about guitar players, as I was diving in and playing guitar, I realized like every one of my favorite guitar players was really heavily influenced by blues music. And that just threw me into the rabbit hole even deeper. And every single great guitar player that I feel like you hear is influenced by blues in some way or another. And so I just started really studying it. And Kansas City's got a long tradition of jazz and blues, and there were like a lot of open jam session type scenarios that were really inviting to somebody like myself. Like people were really inviting to kids and
Right.
teenagers, I was encouraged, to come out. So, I mean, I think it was just kind of a mix of all these things, having it around and digging in like that.
And I know that you started on the drums. What kind of age did you start playing around with instruments?
About 13.
And when did you actually pick up a guitar?
About 15.
Right. And was there one album around that time that you were listening to that made you want to get a guitar and actually try doing that for yourself?
Well, we had them lying around the house. Like my dad played, my sister played, and all their friends, siblings, and relatives played. So we kind of had it lying around the house. And I think I picked up my sister's acoustic guitar first. And because I kind of had this background in playing drums, I sort of had this really helpful foundation to rhythm. So when I started strumming and chords and singing, I kind of had this like internal sense of timing that I think helped so much to kind of speed along the process. I always encourage people to go and learn the drums, because you need to be able to play in time no matter what you do. So I don't know. It was just always there. So I picked it up and I'd borrow one. And then I don't think I actually got my own guitar until I was like, I don't know, 17, 18 years old.
Right. Okay. And as somebody who's been trying to learn guitar for my entire life and still not very good, did it come naturally to you? Or did you have to really work at it?
I some people would say it came really naturally to me. I feel like I had to work really hard at it, but I think that's all perspective.
Mm.
Sometimes you see people who really, really have to really, really, really work hard for it. And, it kind of puts your work to shame. So I don't know. I think that's all a perspective thing. But like I said, I think I had a couple key factors that helped me along. One being the drums, kind of helped me with my timing. I also learned on an acoustic guitar. So got through that pain and callus building phase, and it hurt like hell. But once I switched to electric, it was like, oh, this is so much easier. Like, it's like, the butter at room temperature rather than in the freezer. It's just, I don't know. It felt so much smoother. And, but I guess in a way I don't have any formal real education on it. I never really took lessons or went to school for it.
Mm.
A lot of what I know, is picking up little things here and there off of other guitar players, but just also picking stuff out by my ear. And I get taught like some fundamental things, like, here are your chords. Oh, here's this caged method, your circle fifths, you kind of pick up things that kind of make the whole thing make sense in a way. But I mean, I'm still learning about it. That's the great thing about music, is it's a never ending journey, and it's about you and your journey.
Yeah.
And it's kind of cool.
So when you actually started playing the electric guitar, were you playing along with albums? Were you learning other songs? What kind of stuff were you listening to when you were doing that?
I remember having like DVDs. You remember DVDs?
Oh, yeah.
I remember having this like AC/DC Live from Donington DCD or DVD. AC/DC DVD. God, that's hard to say.
I actually saw AC/DC at Donington.
Yes, it's epic, right?
Yeah, but I actually saw them there in person.
You were there?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Are you kidding me? That's crazy.
Yeah, it was one of my first ever festivals. I think it might have even been my first festival.
Wow. Holy shit. That's amazing, man.
Yeah.
That's exciting. I mean, I was obsessed with that DVD. I had that, and I had like a Stevie Ray Vaughan DVD, and so and Freddie King. I had a Freddie King one, and I just I don't know, I just loved watching really good guitar players passionately channel their voice through the guitar. And and then I try and kind of like mimic, some of what they were doing. And a lot of it, like for me, when you're watching blues players, it's about vibrato. It's about this voicing. It's about, it's about pauses and breaths and emotion. And I think I was just super drawn to that. But I remember that being like just, and watching stuff in my room on DVD or whatever quickly turned into me going to clubs and watching guitar players in venues and just kind of watching and going, oh, okay, I can see he did this right here. And I'm going to go home and try that. And it just went on like that for years. And I think that in a way that's kind of lent to giving me a unique voice on the guitar. I just pick stuff up that like sounded good to my ear, and then try and come up with my own way to say it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you've been very prolific with your albums. There hasn't been many long waits for albums from you. At this point in your career, if somebody had never heard your music and they just said, "Oh, play me one of your songs," is there a song that you would choose first to kind of give an idea of what you're all about?
Well, I'd always go off the newest record, just because I feel like that's the most current version of what I'm offering. It's really because my records have fluctuated so much from album to album. It's hard to be like, this is the one encompassing song that represents everything I do. But I feel like Twisted Ambition is one that people are going to relate to. But I'd say my most successful song, I try to let the fans kind of dictate that, Bulletproof is probably my most streamed, my most successful requested song. And it came out on Killer Be Kind. And it's a cigar box guitar song, which is kind of which I think is unique. But I don't know. It's hard for me to say. I sort of try and let the people decide that, because for me it changes day to day. Some days I fancy myself more of a vocalist and more of a bummer, and so I'll pick a ballad or something. And then some days it's like, no, we gotta I want to rock out on the guitar, so I'll pick something like Bulletproof. Try to find something that encompasses it all.
So you mentioned Twisted Ambition. Now, I heard a story once about Chris Isaak when they were talking about making the video for Wicked Game. He thought he would just try his luck and say, how about if I can roll around on a beach with a beautiful model? And he was amazed that the record company said, yeah, okay.
Right.
So was it your idea to start smashing stuff up with a hammer for the video?
I always have these outrageous ideas for music videos, and then they turn out to be way too expensive. We brought in Casey Pierce, the director, and he sent that treatment over. Sometimes it's kind of cool to let the artist hear the song. You tell them what it's about, and then they send you a treatment idea because they have the vision in their mind already. I'm not a videographer by any means. I mean, I can convey my vision and what I think it should be, but sometimes they'll internalize the song meaning and come back with something that's hey, what about this? I mean, I don't know. I felt like it's a little bit more symbolic. I probably would have gone right on the nose and spent way too much money, probably making cars explode and shit. But no, he sent this idea over about the smashing of the blocks, and it's and why this is relevant within the context of the song. I mean, it's really about transformation and change, and it's breaking these old blocks, and it's just kind of the badass imagery, and it's a little more, I don't know, I guess a little bit more symbolic than anything. But I think it's cool because the song's got this I know it sounds like there's a lot going on, but it's about the guitar. It's about this attitude. And so I feel like having this video just be kind of the simple, expressive thing really fit the mood of the song,
Were there any injuries?
No. We almost had one, but no, none to really report.
We've spoken a lot about sort of classic music and music from decades ago. Do you keep up with newer music as well?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I was a kid who grew up with just an FM radio. So I got everything from, I listened to classic rock and I'd listen to the cool college stations with the underground indie stuff. But then, I was flipping through pop stations and country and R&B and hip hop. I mean, I really, I don't know. I mean, I don't like to really limit myself when I'm listening to music. I try to listen to everything.
And we've had a lot of time to listen to music recently, being
oh my God
at home and all that. Is there anybody that you've discovered in the last year or so that you're excited about? Maybe somebody we haven't heard of?
Somebody y'all haven't heard of? I'm listening to new releases right now. I listened to the new Southern Avenue record. I love those chicks. They are incredible. I wanted to check out that new Halsey record because she collaborated with Trent Reznor, so I had to check that out. I mean, I like old school soul too. I've been talking about Betty Harris for years and years. Living in New Orleans, I was kind of introduced to a lot of great music there, like Alan Toussaint, which a lot of people, if they don't know him, they should know him. He's one of the best songwriters to ever exist. But he produced a record for this lady named Betty Harris, and she's just phenomenal. I mean, I do listen to a lot of like poppier stuff too. I was super excited when I discovered Billie Eilish. I was like, oh, the whole world already knew about her. But when I discovered her, I was like, whoa, this kid is like so cool. Like she's really like just super expressive and unique,
Well, let me ask you another question. In your lifetime, if you, off the top of your head, had to name one album that you think you've listened to more than any other, do you know what that might be?
Probably the Rolling Stones' Sticky Fingers. Yeah. Wow. I mean, it's just, honestly, I just feel like it's a perfect record. And it's like, to me, that's when the Stones were like doing country music, and trying to emulate this real country kind of sound. But they came up with something so unique to them that it's just, I don't know. For me, that's an iconic record that I'm obsessed with still. Like I can listen to it over. It's probably my Desert Island album for sure.
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay, so the album's out this week and you've got a massive tour planned. I know you're going to Europe as well. We're in Montreal. Any idea when we might be able to see you in Canada?
I don't know. I haven't seen anything yet on the books, but we're due for it. I mean, we should be coming up there pretty soon because we have such a great following in Canada, and like really I love the people up there. It's super exciting every time we get to travel there, so hopefully soon. I'm thinking 2022 should be the year.
Yeah, well, I hope so.
I do too.
I love the album. It feels like a really nice step for you, and it feels like you're still pushing forward with what you do. So I wish you all the best with it. Thanks for spending some time. I've really enjoyed chatting with you, and hopefully we will see you before too long north of the border.
Yeah, I hope so. Thank you. I really appreciate the time, and we'll see you soon.